Letty paused, wiped sweat from her eyes and forehead, then looked around. The barn needed to be painted, but she didn't have the money to buy another gallon of red paint. Too bad. The wood was starting to rot in places, and instead of replacing boards, Pa had painted over them. A few already fell off. The barn doors weren't much better. Barely hanging on their hinges, Letty swore she could swing one open by blowing on it. Besides the barn, there was the rickety corral Pa built years ago, the equally rickety chicken coop, and the graves. Ma's, Elam's, and Pa's, to be exact. She shut her eyes tight. No, stop dwelling on the past. If she didn't get this hay up today, her milk cows would be bawling something awful come supper time. The beasts knew exactly when they were supposed to be fed. She didn't want to have to come back to the shore when the beasts headed in from the pasture. Since the incident, as Apple Blossom residents called it, Letty thought about moving further west. Sarah Crawford, Mr. Smythe's neighbour and now a widow, due to said incident, told her to stay. Her theory was that once a gang had robbed a place, that was it for them. They'd move on. Sarah didn't have a lick of sense as far as Letty was concerned. She and the rest of Apple Blossom's residents were suspicious of strangers, especially men, and would be for a long time. Who knew when the next robbery would take place? She finished the hay, put her tools away, then went to the water pump to wash up. After soaking her bandana, she wiped her face and neck to cool herself, closing her eyes to let the water run down her cheeks. She should take a rest, but had so much to do, she wasn't sure she could afford to. Today, her housekeeping chores included sweeping the floors, dusting the furniture, and airing out her bedding and clothes. It was overly warm now, but who knew what it would be like this afternoon? The weather was unpredictable. There could be a summer rainstorm. She also couldn't stand to be idle. Having time to think hurt. Pa and Elam would come to mind, and soon the tears would follow. With unerring regularity, her chores kept her busy. After all, if a day's worth of chores didn't keep her body busy, what would? Letty took a deep breath, reached for a ladle hanging from a nail pounded to a post near the pump, and filled it. The water was clear and cool, and tasted faintly of the hay Mr. Smythe delivered. She could use a cup of tea, but that would have to wait until she was done with her other chores. Finished outside, she trudged into the little whitewashed house and stared at her basket of mending. She needed more thread, and wondered if she'd have time to get some while she was in town. Letty shook her head and laughed. When will I ever have time? She rolled her shoulders to get some kinks out, grabbed the basket, and plopped onto her careworn sofa. The once beautiful green fabric was faded, fraying. The rest of the furniture in the house no better off. Everything was old, wore out. She was the same way, only at 20, she wasn't so old. Letty glanced at herself in the mirror over the fireplace mantel. Her blonde hair was mussed, her light green eyes tired. But even before the tragedy that took so many, she always looked tired. Papa moved them from Philadelphia once the railroad reached the Montana Territory. Mama protested the move, but Papa wouldn't listen. He wanted to go west, start a ranch. Maybe if he got lucky, he'd do some mining and strike it rich. So much for that. Still, Papa loved the ranch he'd built, and Mama grew to love it too, over time. And then her time ran out. Letty bowed her head and closed her eyes. Lord, I hope Mama is keeping you company and not talking your ear off. She threaded a needle, smiled, then bowed her head again. You can let her talk Papa and Elam's ears off instead. She smiled again, then got to work. She'd take a walk down to the creek later and see if any new daisies had popped up. She could pick a few and put them on her family's graves. Mama, Papa, and Elam liked flowers. She'd make sure they had some today. It was the least she could do, considering she was still amongst the living. Sterling Darlington rode his bay gelding to the top of a rock outcropping and looked at the land spread out before him. Tall grass swayed in the breeze, bending and flowing from the rocky mounts and plateaus that jutted from the landscape like castles of old. Beneath the grass lay thousands of flowers, white, yellow, purple, and red.